Hello War of the Visions players, I'm Jackie Fox. This is Faris, who is going to be the captain of our voyage across the high seas in search for Syldra, the Vision Card Esper combination. And I think that as a limited Esper Vision card, this one is actually pretty good. And definitely one that I recommend certain players think about pulling. And I'm going to show you some applications of a Syldra team. Now this is going to be a water-based Syldra team, and we'll talk about some of the other options that are available when I talk about the VC and the Esper in just a minute, but after we get done with that, I'm going to show you our fights against matchups in the arena against every element, sorted by element, and including fire and lightning, although there were relatively few of those fights because they were a little bit boring, but showing you how this water team can match up against all of the other elements. Because he is a Strider, Astrius is going to be using Syldra, whereas Chaos Bahamut is going to help boost the strike damage on Faris. And just check out those stats. Wow. First, let's take a look at the vision card. We have an attack-focused vision card that's also going to be giving us defense and agility. Defense is okay on a vision card, but agility on a vision card is really pretty awesome. Good bit of HP on this. For the unit, it's going to get accuracy, 15, and AoE resistance. Both of these are quite impactful, and I like this as a set of unit effects. For Faris specifically, we're going to be getting 20% attack, which is going to ensure that this gets equipped to her pretty well. And then for the group, we're going to be getting increased critical rate 30, which is generally pretty helpful. We're getting a lot more crit dependent stuff happening all the time, so this is just a good thing to have. It seems to be a pretty consistent thing that they're building into. Increased spirit 12 is, again, not the best, but it is interesting to have an additional source of spirit from a vision card. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. And then this is going to be the slash attack resistance penetration card for these job VCs. These are always very important cards, and if you like ninjas, absolutely actually a really important card for ninjas, oddly enough. So if you're trying to run that all ninja team in the future, these are usually slash units. You're going to want to hit them up with this, definitely get this for them. Katana teams are also really going to enjoy this as well. So there's a lot of cool, also, how could I forget? I am a red mage player. I love red mage compositions. Most red mages carry a sword. There's just so many sword heavy classes here to get slash attack resistance penetration. Even some of these can benefit from it, but usually not primarily. Like, it might be kind of, there's some slash damage in their backup jobs, stuff like that, but you know, not super impactful. But it is good to make sure that they make it onto the team, that they get the increased spirit, that they get the critical hit rate up, even if they aren't necessarily benefiting from this. This is enough to make, or to get Syldra, I'm sorry, this is enough to get Faris alongside other buffs within her attacks up to kind of an area around 100 defense and slash attack resistance penetration. So this card for her, because I don't think there's actually an equivalent for water of a slash attack resistance penetration card, not that I can think of. So water really needs one of these as well, which is why it's pretty cool it's coming on Syldra, because in some ways this is a bit of a water card. Especially since it's, you know, benefiting you to run Faris. Now, there are rainbow compositions. I'll show you one in just a second that can run this. I mean, like, this composition here would be really good. There's a lot of really cool, in my opinion, red mage compositions, and this is really where we're getting into some fun red mage building. But you'll also see a bunch of other units in here that are... Let's actually filter this by water, see which water units we can use. Oh yeah, we have Dia. Miranda, Farm, I could also test with this because Farm would work for this. So You know, we could potentially even have a Faris farm evasion build that could use Syldra. But what I'm going to be using, since I've already tested Omnilus a little bit, and you know, maybe she would be stronger potentially, but I'm going to try Miranda. I haven't really gotten to play around with Miranda at all, so she's going to be my unit of choice for this video. But yeah, this is a good little spread for building a team from, and you know, this is the way I'm going. But there are going to be other water accounts that we're going to see real shortly that are using other combinations of these units. Rachel's just recently got a 140, so that's great for her. And then Dia's a pretty brand new unit herself. And then we have Syldra the Esper. Good bit of HP, decent attack, decent agility. That's, well, actually a little bit better than decent, but not like a fast Esper by any means. Let's see what the builder is like. So this is definitely going to be I mean, let's get the attack first of all. You always get the attack. Also a lot of accuracy here, which is cool. But with some crit rate, I think we have more of a slash Esper here. And this Esper is arguably powerful enough as a slash Esper that, yeah, let's do that. That as for at least slash units, this one might be able to compete with some of the old standards like Odin, or you know, even newer stuff like Dark Bahamut or any of the Chaos Espers that you might be wanting for like a big power boost. At least for slash units, this could be that card. And naturally, as a win card, it does really encourage earth resistance. I mean, you're going to start with 10 for one, but you're going to get at least 3 more because you're going to be going for the attack. It's really easy to get up to 18, and there's a lot of earth killer potentially here as well. You could also go in a more defensive direction if you want to make this even more general, because it does have the attack up steroid on it. You could also make this into a slash resistance Esper. Let's dial back on some of this. Yeah, with a formation more like that. There's also a lot of accuracy on this Esper, which is really helpful. And some bonus berserk resistance. So really an Esper that I like, not necessarily must have, but I think that this is a super important card for a lot of different players, be you ninja players, be you katana players, you hear me, katana meta, or be you red mage players such as myself. Because this is absolutely a card that makes, you know, Elena better. This is a card that makes Sylvie better. If you want some newer units to play with this, definitely, there's definitely a lot of good ice stuff, you know, Howlet and Reagan. Potentially, we run into a Howlet and Reagan team. I don't think they were packing a Sylvie, but, you know, you potentially might even see that later on in this video. So let's see what's going on. So with over 10,000 HP, over 1,700 attack, and nearly 120 speed, she is the fastest unit on my team, and everybody's just going to rush into the center to get their protect up. Meanwhile, I think that we're going up against a Syldra team as well. This is a full red mage team and a full slash team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were running Syldra. In fact, I kind of hope that they are. That being said, I'm not sure, and I really should have looked at this team. I didn't realize that they were all red mages and could have also been a Syldra team. But I would really be interested what vision cards, if they have like a good job-based VC spread for these guys, because wow, I actually think this could be a really cool team if it was built appropriately with the vision cards. A thing that would either require a nice collection or some extensive spending. It's definitely quite the team to build, but wow, so far it's doing, or their Faris is doing all right. They are getting pounded by our AoEs, but ooh, preemptive counter just wiped. Big damage from Miranda. Impressive. Meanwhile, there's just no way this Faris is going to take the two of them at once. Oh, so she goes for Miranda. That didn't work out well for her either, though. And we win that fight. Moving into the next, we have an absolute mirror match. And even mirroring which sides Faris and Astrius are on. The only real big difference is that my Miranda is at 140 where theirs is at 120, but otherwise very similar teams. Another thing that I do want you to notice though is that I've put a lot of emphasis on agility for my Faris, and just how much emphasis I've put on her agility compared to what they've done for her is really going to become apparent towards the end of the fight, because this one, yeah, it is a mirror match in that we just kind of hit like matter and antimatter after a little while here and just wipe each other out almost to a fault. Good fight though, good match. We're gonna sit back and enjoy this one. I really wish I could get Miranda off to the side. With Faris's buff, she doesn't really need Protect. I would rather get Protect on the side than the HP Absorb. But I guess this is the only way really that Miranda gets an opportunity to cast Courage. And she doesn't do it often, unfortunately, because she's pretty squishy. And she really needs that, especially having a threshold heal automatically. Because, well, if she doesn't survive, she's not going to threshold heal. So that's kind of a catch-22 for her. Meanwhile, their Miranda isn't 140, so she just doesn't have the threshold heal that I'm talking about here. Everybody pretty much is down to Courage over there in that cluster. We're barely ahead. I would say we're ahead at this point. They do have haste on their Faris. So in theory, their Faris should be faster than mine. In theory. Also, I think I've used my LB, which is another one of her good speed tricks. But we have managed to break this down to a 3v1 until those two got destroyed in one hit. Now it's a one-on-one. Ooh, and there we go, getting hit by the LB. This is going to give their Faris a chance to lap ours. This is a really dangerous moment for us. I think they were banking on a crit there and didn't get it, but Pirate Onslaught's going to heal me back a bit while keeping us in the damage race. And then I'm going to get the next turn because I'm that much faster. So anytime that this Faris isn't CT manipulating with their LB, I can lap them eventually. Getting smacked in the back. I don't know why theirs is using Wave Cutter that much. It must just be that they're low on AP or something. It also kind of occurs to me watching this, not for the first time, but that Wave Cutter might actually be slightly problematic on Faris, in that she uses it in a lot of situations where a basic attack would have been better and would have caused her to pick up AP as opposed to losing AP and then making some of it up. It would have been a net positive to her AP, whereas she's ultimately using a move that is still a net negative, even though it gives you some AP back. But I guess it's a more sure counter, and it definitely has a lot more range, so I don't know that I would necessarily turn it off. But it does bother me that she uses it in some cases where she's just A, either not going to get the AP back, or B, could have gotten a positive amount of AP by just tapping them out. This is another Syldra composition, as you just saw, and this is going to be really the newest and most updated version. This is going to be the one with Omnilus, and if you want to see this, I actually reviewed this specific team, did 5 fights with them earlier this week. They're using, it looks like, the same formation that I was using earlier this week. They just copied my Syldra team from last week. Down to even the equipment. They have the same equipment on their team as well. So this is basically me fighting my team from earlier in the week with my team from later in the week. She is really reaching deep into my lines with that. Another unit that has a really shocking range is Miranda, actually. Well, also Omnilus. Omnilus has a ridiculous range. But Miranda has her Water Gut Dispeller, which has just a huge AoE pattern. But in addition to having a huge AoE pattern, it also can remove re-raise and can put things to sleep. It's just a really great move to use. And on this map especially, she'll cast it from a distance. Like, she gets sometimes she gets like one, if they get a little too much forward movement too early, she'll get one buff turn, one turn of lateral movement, and then she is running straight forward to cast Water Gun. Again, wouldn't turn it off though. Re-raise, remove, potential for sleep. Like, I've seen some really fun. We'll get to a sleep combo. I think my favorite sleep combo that I did with this team will be an ice. So here is what is probably another Syldra Water team. Just looking at the units that they're using. So let's see how we fare against them. I'm not trying to say that like Miranda is like definitively better than Omnilus. I actually think that Omnilus is probably the stronger character here in certain respects. The reason that I wanted to use Miranda, even though it's not super true with her either, Omnilus doesn't have any slashing skills, which is an issue. Also, this is Time Mage Miranda, not Paladin Miranda, so she's not going to have access to Courage. You're going to see that because I used both of these builds at different points. Although I think Paladin Miranda is probably my favorite just because she has the threshold heal. It feels like she needs Courage more. Although, like, Quicken was interesting here to keep Astrius ahead of a faster and more mobile Faris. And you can see even now, like, she catches up with him very easily. And it kind of worked, but it didn't need to be that way. I think I was a lot more happy with her getting Courage off early on. just to kind of ensure that she at least gets that heal as well, because that heal is important. I've seen people like one-shot her, which is also kind of good that Miranda is the slowest unit on my team by a good margin. I want to say her agility is probably around 100, whereas we're like 114, 117, 118 with the other units. So she's aggressively slow, which keeps her in the back row, thankfully, and allows her to kind of like rush out, drop bombs, or, I mean, she has a really ridiculous range with the spelling thrust as well. That skill's pretty nuts. And a guaranteed hit skill. Although, I'm not sure that she really... even if there are 2 units here with guaranteed hit, and 1 unit with a high accuracy move and accuracy up on a buff, we'll see some evasion matchups a little bit later on, but it can be a little rough. Really, it's all about thresholds. It's all about how evasive the units are. It's also about how many you have to deal with and how fast. Because there are a lot of good units that could take them one at a time or could kind of play with them, but couldn't deal with 3 of them in their face all at once. I think I switched my unit order up to ensure that the initial hate would land on Faris and therefore get her quickened, at least for this one. Which is interesting, but I think in some of the matches she got out a little bit too far in front with that. All of these she's going to be using sea legs, so that is kind of a concern, but sea legs is also a big part of why she has the 118 agility, how she's even faster than Astrius, who is notably like one of the fastest units in the game when he was released, and it's not necessarily a threshold that anyone has like broken through since. So he is still kind of a high watermark for what a fast unit is for this game. And, you know, I'm not necessarily building him for like the 120 speed buff, the 120 speed build that was around when he came out. But he is pretty fast. It's also worth noting that Aerith is one of the staff mages that's available for Syldra. No. Gosh, Perrine like single-handedly wrecked our entire team. We didn't even get time to deal with their Faris. Okay, so we got beat by that one. You gotta lose at some point, don't you, folks? And that's gonna be our loss to water. I'm trying to make sure that there's at least, or that there's, if it happens, there's maybe 1 loss per element. Although some of these elements, in order to get 5 fights in, I had to push that threshold a little bit, I think. Light was one of those elements that we were having trouble with. Especially like Bart's and Addison Ray are good versus physical. And this is a pretty physical team. Also, I think we have more in the way of re-raise removal than courage removal. Whereas 2 of our units are relying on courage, which they can remove, those 2. So even though what I think is probably a bigger concern for this team would be evasion, and look at Miranda missing Addison Ray already. Also the reflexes are annoying, of course. These 2 just in particular counter this team fairly well, in ways that they don't necessarily deal with. That being said, it's not like a lost cause because this is a pretty strong team. But also, this was one of my earlier fights in the arena climb, so it was probably one of the easier fights that I've had. Here's another Bart's Addison Ray team with an off element. This time the off element unit is Sephiroth. So, courageous Sephiroth. Fun. Enjoy that. It also means that 3 of their units now can remove courage, which is just going to be a problem for everyone but Faris. And it's, I mean, I guess Faris was built to kind of not need courage, but boy, it would be nice. I still wouldn't mind. It has kind of become a bit more standard in the meta to have courage at this point. So we had a bit of a failure to launch here somehow. Just a whole bunch of running in circles from Faris, unfortunately, with the courage. This might have been the fight that made me decide very definitively that at least for this map, Faris probably shouldn't be the one with courage. I mean, shouldn't be the one with being quickened. And a big part of that is just the way that Astrius' buddy buff works here as opposed to hers, and that she can kind of get stuck in this cycle of running back to her quickener and just, you know, basically getting 2 units stuck in a loop at home instead of, and having one like overextend. Like, this was a really bad deployment because of quicken, primarily. And it just messed my chances at winning this fight all up. So, building tip there that I learned a little bit too late. It doesn't work like that in every fight that I had done that with, though. We've already seen one where it wasn't necessarily an issue. I like this pattern because it gets Astrius to break away first, but also in such a way that he can still get his courage up before he gets forward. Also gives me plenty of time to cast Dragon's Defense on Faris. The one that really has maybe too much range for her own good sometimes is Miranda. Especially with her being more of a support, she doesn't have, like in this instance, for instance, her being the quicken unit here is a bit of a problem for her because she's never really getting to cast buffs on herself necessarily. So she's not even getting to be able to use courage. Well, it's on her sub job, unfortunately. So it's just she wouldn't be able to. Even if she could. No, she wouldn't be able to because it's in a different subjob. But even if she had it, she wouldn't be casting it on herself because she's too busy casting Quicken. And she does actually have other buffs, Fast Cast being one of, that she will cast on herself, giving herself unit attack resistance, which is really powerful on this map, as well as haste and maybe something else, defense up or something. That she could be casting on herself, but she isn't because she's quickening, and then by the time she's not quickening, she's in somebody's face. So this is going to be a more standard light team. Usually you see more of a tank like Warrior of Light instead of Lucio, but this is a pretty aggressive offensive version of that team, and I think maybe even one that is going to make really amazing use of Bart's follow-up attack. Just because of how big the AoEs on, well, I take it back. Lucio's already used Radiant Nova and Bart's wasn't in range nor ready to follow up damage. But speaking of follow up, here comes, oh, he's running his own sub job. That's not recommended. I recognize that buff. So Lucio got a little overextended, is already down. See, there it is. There's that fast cast. Pretty useful buff on this map, I would say. And I like it better when she has the opportunity to cast it. Even to a certain degree over Quicken at this point, just because it does a number of things, and Quicken, cool as it is, doesn't increase the defenses of the unit, you know? And that unit attack resistance is pretty cool on this map. Still not a fan of single target haste, but when it comes with a nice defensive buff like that, I can't be too mad at it. So let's try, thankfully a weak lock, but a strong evasion team around him. This might be a little bit of trouble for them. It's really going to be a test of their accuracy. But they do have guaranteed hit moves as long as these units come at them not too fast and aren't too lucky or good at dodging guaranteed hits somehow. Or tanking through them to where they don't proc their courage or re-raise or something. Then... well, I'm just saying, I think this might be a little bit more challenging. Also, another one running Bart's with his own sub-job. What are you people thinking? Really? Did you not change the skills? Are you just running, well, I guess this would be stock Bart's. We didn't change nothing. I just powered everything up. I mean, he is level 89, I guess. Ooh, but look at it. Being impactful. Elena couldn't have done that herself. Not with 131 damage. But with... oh, there's Bart's. Okay, come on. And that was her heightened accuracy move as well. Okay, so one of them remains. I think Astrius is probably the most efficient guaranteed hit on the team, so hopefully he can get the AP, he can get this last hit. Oh, good. Okay, so Faris has more hate. She's going to be drawing in and giving him the unfailing Void Blade. Good. Okay. Glad Faris tanked Elena well there. Alright, looks like this is the last light team I'm going to be facing off against. It's me, Raymond, I believe. What's up, Ray? This is a really, really tough team, by the way. Just because probably even more so than with Lucio, Addison Ray has some big AoE attacks, and this follow-up, I guarantee this thing's going to get used. Also, the combination of Courage and Re-Raise on Wing of Destiny Stern with Addison Ray is just a really strong combination that I haven't seen it very often, but wow, is it impactful. I mean, if you thought Locke was doing good with... ooh, that removed a lot of really impactful stuff with her Dispel. Cool. This guy's got it going on. So we've triggered Courage, which means we're left with Re-Raise. So we're diffusing the Winged Stern, not without losing Miranda. Okay, so we've got their main DPS. We can still get wiped pretty hard by either of these other units. Courage removal. Oh, ooh, we survived without getting slowed. That's pretty awesome. Can't believe Bart's dodged that. Okay, so it's just us and Addison, and we're down. That was pretty close. Pretty good match. So now we're gonna try Earth, and there are a lot of really strong Earth teams, and this is one of them. In fact, this is probably like the strong Earth team, I would say, for now into the near future. Just because you've got the strongest tank, you've got the strongest DPS, and you've got the strongest brawler. Yeah, for the element, all in the same place. They have kind of a next generation tank, someone who is only going to be, who will be eclipsed only by Roth, and only slightly. He's a very good tank. And just one of the most consistent problems that I've had in Arena since he was released across all elements. He's just a pain. Like, there's a lot of DPSs that are troublesome that I instinctively want to avoid, but this guy is just so freaking hard to take down that he makes anyone he is paired with so much more lethal. It's really quite aggravating. But we did thankfully manage to get this boy put to sleep. Although he's healing himself while he's sleeping. Like the little OP bitch he is. Okay, please tell me Big A. Well, it's irrelevant. I was really hoping Big AoE sleep coming from Miranda. But we do have the potential for a wipe city. Although, like, you would think that getting it down to these two would make it like an easy fight, but still a lot of bombs to defuse here. Still, we made it. And again, that is probably like the strongest Earth team that you're gonna see. Here's a more supportive version of that team. You're really losing a lot of offensive power and a lot of staying power by switching out Queen Macherie for Galzak. But Galzak is definitely a more dedicated healer. Also not sure how I feel about their decision to put the tank in the center in this map, but maybe? We'll see what happens. It doesn't seem like it's affecting my buff order. I'm just curious if he's gonna be able to, like, nah, he can't cross over that. I guess he's front and center. I mean, his movement through that wasn't terrible, but he couldn't really get over the wall very well. Ooh, Shadow Flare. Didn't see that coming. Because she never uses it. I didn't even know she could, really. Or if it was turned on or anything. So, there's the Shadow Flare for the video. And Dialdo is just here being stubborn as all hell. And that's what makes Galzak so dangerous for Earth, just because of how stubborn Dialdo is. Like, if it were... Look at this. Look at this shit. Give Dialdo a healer and he gets just supremely annoying. Supremely annoying. We're not done with Earth yet. We've got more coming, folks. So here's some Earth with re-raise. Hopefully not as strong for having a lack of elemental continuity, but once again, having a healer with Dialdo is quite a powerful strategy. Giving him re-raise, I imagine, is even more annoying. So I think Lena has a lot of potential here. Although, Bradley's getting scarily out in front. It's just not good for him to be that out in front. He did get a lucky dodge, though. 2 lucky dodges. Fuck. Welp. There goes the neighborhood. Everybody's got something to say about that. Oh man, if one more attack had hit and we could have turned that courage proc into a defeat, this would have gone a lot better. As it stands, I think we're about to get boned. Yep. It's about Dialdo's synergy with other characters. It's about the fact that Dialdo, being such a strong tank, can bring out power in other characters. So here we go again with Dialdo, Bradley, and a healer. Once again, off element healer. This is what makes me say that this is probably the strongest team in Arena right now. I mean, I realize that Dialdo being a bonus unit, and I think he still is a pretty big deal. But also, it's really kind of easy to plug and play another support character into this team and make it work as a way of modifying it. And look at this. Oh, God, I hate this variant already. They all fucking have haste now. But yeah, this particular one, in addition to Dialdo, Galzak, and Bradley, is one that I saw quite a bit up in the top of the arena. Very strong team. And like, I guess yeah. But we did manage to get rid of Dialdo. Wow. Yeah. So basically, if Dialdo has a healer, we can't win. Everybody playing Earth is playing Bradley and Dialdo. And it's pretty dominant. Like, it's very strong. They are a very tough combination. But let's see what we can do. Even with Dialdo down, just these two being on the field by themselves, especially with all their gimmicks backing them up, is just such a strong bomb to defuse. So from here, let's move on to wind. Our first wind team is going to be Glaciella, Sodley, and Edward. And one thing I'm going to say is the new wind units are not getting a ton of respect, especially Risol. You'll see a lot of new units in some elements, but wind players have clung hard to their Glaciella and Sodleys. And with all due respect, they still work, so I can't really judge. Alright, we're still back in the Quicken era, but this is getting, at least in this fight, Astrius and Faris really up front together. And they are really chaining up together incredibly well. Also, that buff. Also, okay, so thinking through that skill, right? It's a 3-hit training skill that then gives an attack magic buff and reaction block. So, if you can follow that up, if you can chain with that, not only is that ready building you a chain, it's powering you up to cap that chain. In addition to reducing the chances that they're going to pull some sort of reflex shenanigans on you. It's a really good building finisher kind of teammate synergy skill. Unfortunately, I don't see her use it a lot. And I'm thinking that maybe Wave Cutter might even be part of why she isn't, but I probably need to look at her a little bit more to be absolutely sure about that. So my apologies for the landscaping going on in the background. This team would be a lot more powerful against a more magic-oriented or maybe a higher faith team. As you can see from the fact that they have landed a lot of silence on my team already, but fortunately for them, it's not really mattering a lot to Astrius. Level 119 team, which, I don't know, what is that, like, anti-arithmetician? What's going on here? Why are your units level 119 specifically, all 3 of them? Please let me know in the comments what strategy that is. I mean, is this like a serious thing? I mean, I know that like there are certain skills that hit harder if you're a multiple of 3 or 4, and that 120 would actually be a multiple of both of those things. Or no, 2 or 3, I don't remember. So there, but like, has anybody actually benefited from that strategy? Like, in theory, there are certain skills that would do more damage to you if you had a slightly higher level, but I think the benefit of having a higher level in basically every other case is probably more impactful. You're building for a boogeyman that's not coming for you, is kind of how that feels. And I think that this team suffered from that, unfortunately. But also, we're cutting through wind actually pretty well. The slash attack resistance penetration is likely helping with that. Because often wind teams actually can be fairly tanky to slash. I think a bigger part of that though is probably Joom. And we haven't seen any Jooms so far, so that's probably a little bit of why we've had an easier time of breaking through these. Hopefully I fought a Joom at some point. You would think, And actually, this is the weird thing. Out of the Wind trio that used to be the Rage of Soddly, Joom, and Classy Glassy. Oh, wait. I guess it was Celebratory Glassy. I think that was Classy Glassy. Flaggy. Soddly and Flaggy. Are both 120 max, and Joom is a 140 unit now, and Joom is the one that people aren't playing. Seriously, I've seen a lot of people, and you know, they just... They're such good counters, like, oh wait, I found a Joom. Okay. We have the classic Win team with 140 Joom, so let's take it easy, see how this goes, and get ourselves ready for Ice. Meanwhile, I'm going to be putting a link on the screen and thanking my patrons through this fight. Appreciate you all, and if you would like to join the Discord, check out some more of my content, podcasts, anything like that, donate to the channel, do all of that stuff through the link that's on the screen right now while everybody is getting their buffs set up. So come check it out, give it a link, give it a click, write it on the back of your hand. Do what you gotta do to make sure you visit that later. And maybe like and subscribe while you're doing that. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Okay, let's see what Ice can do. Still seeing a lot of Ice ranged. Seems like there haven't been as many people who have pulled and or built the new Ice units. So we see a lot of people kind of doubling down their investments in older Ice units, really building up Velis, especially being a pretty common one that has continued to see a lot of use. But while I would say that the Ice Slash units are definitely quite strong, they just haven't quite shown up in the meta the same way that a especially a team like this would, where it's like exactly the units that you would have been playing during Ice's heyday. But maybe the 140 versions of them, like a 140 Velis and a 140 Eliza, but you're still running them with an Elia or running them with a Snow. So we should be, all things considered, we should be coming into Pixel Remaster soon, so that would even give us the potential for a 140 Snow. You could have Velis, Snow, and Eliza as a full 140 Ice team that was relevant in second generation, now relevant in third generation, and being maybe one of the best things, especially on certain maps. This being a longer map, this map is absolutely beneficial for shenanigans like that, and Eliza, especially having some really, really long shots in her kit, definitely appreciates it. I mean, just look at this. They are doing a pretty great job so far. But that's kind of interesting, right? So it's kind of a funny commentary on both of these elements, actually, that, you know, for Ice, we have seen the same dominant units maybe for a year. I don't know. It's been quite some time since units like Velis and Eliza were released. And kind of the same story for Wind. Like, Wind and Ice were very strong then, and with even with only minor improvements, I would say that Ice has definitely undergone more improvements with Eliza at 140. Really love, by the way, her MA2 as well. Her MA2 is a big deal to me personally. Giving her agility up on crits, pairing with Thornlet, which gives them agility down. It's just, the agility deficit game is just great for Eliza. And, you know, she's kind of bringing some of these other teams back into relevance. Because I definitely did and do see a lot of Ice in Arena, even though a lot of it seems to be a little bit outdated. And I mean, like, also, who's your bonus unit on this team, right? Like, what? Maybe Sweetheart Celir? I think she was the one that was 140'd most recently. Maybe she's still a bonus unit? I'm not really sure. Maybe they aren't running a bonus unit. That's fine. You don't have to. Does seem a bit strange, though. Anyways, you know, this is also probably a good time to talk about kind of some of my feelings about getting a lot higher in the arena. This was kind of minimal effort, like playing. This video is 2 days worth of 25 fights. This, you know, the kind of, I don't want to say effort that went into making this video, because there's a lot more effort going into this video than just doing this much arena in 2 days. But, you know, this kind of effort that was required to get to the level that I'm at throughout this video, that wasn't staggering in the same way that trying to get to number one in arena was. In a lot of ways, it just weren't good or fun. Like, there is a lot of skill to it. You do have to build a team. You do have to have the right stuff, certainly. So you do have to have, I guess, a good collection, a good setup for your element or for what you're trying to play. Good bonus units. So you probably need some of the newer stuff or some of the stuff that's getting upgraded. But really, like, the idea that people, like, I was thinking to myself, like, what could fix this problem, right? And I think that there's a lot of good things in the way that Arena is designed. You know, scoring points relative to how many more or less points your opponent has than you is a cool idea. it inherently means that you will always catch up faster, and it makes it very difficult to like take off in first place, because it just means that you'll score less and less points the further you break yourself away from the pack. And the dynamics of that are pretty interesting. I don't dislike it, but I think that there's two problems, right? For the person, there's no point in making a wide gap in number one. It is almost always inefficient to do so. Unless you really want to do some mental gymnastics and really calculate this out. It's just straight up inefficient to be going after, to continue fighting after having achieved first place. And since it's so much easier and so much more incentivized to catch up, that means that the people who started the week early, high up, and it is possible to just not be able to catch up late week, you do want to get started early, because the bonuses, I want to say maybe like 250 and up, once you start getting to the point where people around you have enough of a difference in score than you, that those modifiers start getting big and you can start making the big bucks, even without a big chain. There are definite advantages to starting out and staying in the top of the pack, but there's also like, I mean, I guess I shouldn't expect to win just because I tried hard and wanted it, right? There's a lot of other people around the world competing for number one. And yeah, I fell asleep a little bit ahead of time, just like this snow just did. They caught me sleeping, and I ended up in 14th. But it just seems like you need to be able to take off a little bit more easily in order to push people to to put more pressure on other people, to break up the pack a little bit. Because after a certain number of days, what ultimately happens when everyone who's up at the top is afraid to push it too much further for fear of good competition, you end up in a situation where people just start clumping up at the top. And at the end, you have like 40 or 50 people that are competing on the last day. I guess that's polite, maybe. But I don't know, it's just weird to me that like people who put in the work all week don't necessarily have a good way to make that work that they did earlier in the week meaningful, when everything is going to be kind of stacked towards the last minute. But especially like the last minute, because reset doesn't happen to me until 4 a.m. So there's no way for me to go to sleep assured that I'm going to be in number one at any time before 4 a.m., right? Because everybody is just straight up my ass and have been all night and all week, and there's just no way to take off. But at the same time, the people who do take off now typically do so, I would imagine. I mean, like mathematically, I think it has to work out this way that that the people who really build up the big advantages, the big leads in Arena have to be spending a lot of Viz and a lot of Viz refills, and that's going to stack the meta of the game to the people who have the most Viz refills who are playing, which is just the whaliest whales who are playing, because it's based on royal rank, and royal rank is based on the amount of money that you spend on the game. So naturally, people with a really high royal rank who spend a lot of money on the game are going to just be able to beat you from a structural standpoint, you know what I mean? Just because your hands are tied behind your back in a way that theirs aren't. And I think an interesting version of this, because I do actually like getting to a point where you have to spend viz, because that kind of, you know, that separates the people who are really like investing in doing well at the end of the week, and the people who are just playing around, right? I like that, but I think that it should be capped at maybe 5, because look, especially with 3 orb refills, you're talking about 45 matches that way. For me, it would have been 75 matches to do all of my matches for a day that I possibly could have. That's a lot. That's too much. It's too much. Maybe even 6. We can make it an even 50 matches. You got 5 free at the beginning of the day, 3 orbs, 6 viz refills, but everybody gets the same amount. Don't tie it to royal rank. That that's like legalizing steroids. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of ways that I think are acceptable that whales get an advantage in this game, having the newer units, being able to build them faster, sooner, bigger, better, whatever. All of those I can't be too mad at, but when you take it into a direct competitive advantage, like, you know, like, I don't care that your account's on steroids, but quit paying off the refs, you know what I mean? You're slipping them viz to be like, I got 5 more matches, don't I, ref? I do, don't I? Yeah, I thought so. It just feels bad. It also, it's too arduous. It's too fucking much, man. It's not fun to do multiple times. Like, I'm burnt out this week from trying to get to number 1 in arena last week, and I came damn close, but I don't know. It burns me up. It burns me up far more than this fire team is burning up my water team, because it's a water team. What'd you expect? There are many fire matches in this video. I think I only actually recorded 3 because they go about like you would expect. I have pretty high win rate against fire teams. However, there are some pretty big exceptions, because this isn't the best evasion hunting team. Strong enough evasion in general can overwhelm this team, especially if there's a good solid tank backing it up. Even Mont will do, even though he's a fire tank, generally, because there's a lot more added bonuses in terms of vision card synergies, all sorts of things that this Dialdo is missing out on. But also, what I was saying earlier about Dialdo being such an aggravatingly good tank, that he just works on multiple different teams really well. And somehow this ends up being one of them too. Also, really bad luck on getting blinded. 2 of my units blinded in this fight already. Great. So Yuffie is just kind of single-handedly beating us up, and we're having trouble hitting Dialdo. This is sad to watch. Courage removed by Sorrow. Finally have Dialdo down. It's now a 2v2 match. Maybe we have run out her guaranteed hit avoidance. I don't know, because we used Unfailing Void Blade on the other guy first. Our increased accuracy move on Faris isn't connecting with either of them. Neither is the preemptive counter on Astrius, but he was the one with the guaranteed hit. Now he's down, and she's down, and we are down. And now, one that I recorded a bit later on into the fights, We have fire magic with a healer. Not sure it's going to make any difference for them. But hey, might as well try. In fact, this is probably one of the archetypes I did the best against. Even though this isn't necessarily an anti-magic team. It's just, they're not evasive. They've got so many other things running against them at this point versus this team that it's a real uphill battle for them to win, even though technically with magic they are bypassing a number of my defenses. Just not enough of them, unfortunately for them. And then after this fight, we're gonna do a lightning fight, and I'm not really gonna talk about that one very much because we get our asses kicked by lightning. What do you want to see? But also, after I realized, at the point that I realized I might ought to get a couple of videos and just see how we matched up, what things we did surprisingly well, which teams we might even be able to beat, even though we have a huge disadvantage. And I lost pretty much all of those fights. There weren't many because I couldn't find many lightning teams. And then by the time I realized that I only had one that I wanted to keep for the recording, well, I quit seeing lightning teams in the arena, which is like surprising. This seems to be the one element that just is getting nowhere in arena right now, and this has to be a side effect. In part, has to be a side effect of just the Bradley Dialdo dominance that's happening. So, with all that being said, with all that I have said, man, this has been a long video. Ooh, boy, glad that it is almost over. I'm gonna throw up on the screen again that link and a thank you to my patrons. Appreciate you guys so much. You make this worth doing. Collectively, you help me pay the bills, and I love you. So keep doing what you're doing. I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and we'll just keep being special and beautiful together. So check out that link, check out the Discord, check me out, check out the podcast, the rest of the media empire, and I'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe. This isn't your first YouTube video.